The story of the Titanic has fascinated people for over a century, and not just because of the tragic loss of more than 1,500 lives. While most people know about the luxury liner hitting an iceberg and sinking into the cold Atlantic, there's a lesser-known conspiracy theory that suggests the Titanic disaster was no accident. Instead, some believe it was part of a larger, deliberate plot, a grand insurance fraud. According to this theory, the ship that sank on that fateful night in April 1912 wasn't even the Titanic at all. It was her nearly identical sister ship, the RMS Olympic, which had been secretly swapped with the Titanic before the voyage. The idea behind this supposed switch? To sink the damaged Olympic and collect insurance money. But how could such a scheme have even worked? And more importantly, why would anyone take such a risk? The theory begins with the Olympic herself. Launched a year before the Titanic, she was the pride of the White Star Line, but she ran into serious trouble just months after her maiden voyage. In September 1911, the Olympic collided with the British warship, HMS Hawke, causing significant damage to her hull. This accident sparked a string of financial problems for White Star Line. The cost of repairs was immense, and to make matters worse, the Olympic wasn't covered by insurance for this accident. This is where the conspiracy begins to form. According to believers of the theory, White Star Line faced a crippling financial blow after the accident. Repairing the Olympic was too costly, and she could no longer be the flagship of their fleet. They supposedly came up with a bold plan: swap the damaged Olympic with the brand new Titanic. The Olympic, disguised as the Titanic, would then sail across the Atlantic on her maiden voyage, only to meet her untimely end. The real Titanic would quietly be renamed the Olympic and continue to serve under that identity. By sinking the ship and filing an insurance claim, White Star Line would recoup its losses. At first glance, this theory seems outlandish, but there are certain elements that have fueled the speculation. For starters, the Olympic and the Titanic were nearly identical. Both ships were built side by side at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, and they shared the same luxurious interiors. It's easy to see how a ship swap could be pulled off with few people noticing. In fact, those who support the theory often point to slight differences in the number of portholes or minor design discrepancies between the two ships in photographs, suggesting that these changes were part of the switch. One of the most intriguing parts of the theory revolves around J.P. Morgan, one of the most powerful men in the world at the time and a key financier of the White Star Line. Morgan had a private suite booked on the Titanic's maiden voyage, but canceled his trip at the last minute. This suspicious cancellation has led some to believe that Morgan was in on the scheme and knew what was about to happen. In addition, several other wealthy passengers, many of whom had close ties to Morgan, also canceled their trips just days before the Titanic set sail. As the story goes, the Olympic, now disguised as the Titanic, set sail on April 10, 1912. The plan was simple: sail the ship into the North Atlantic, hit an iceberg or other hazard, and let it sink. The crew would have enough time to escape on lifeboats, and White Star Line would collect a hefty insurance payout to cover their losses from the damaged Olympic. But, as with many elaborate schemes, things didn't go exactly as planned. On the night of April 14, 1912, the ship did strike an iceberg, but the damage was far worse than anyone had anticipated. The Titanic began to sink rapidly, and the lack of lifeboats meant that more than 2,500 passengers and crew perished in the freezing waters. The supposed insurance scam turned into one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. Despite its dramatic appeal, the Titanic Insurance Fraud Theory has been widely debunked by historians and experts. For starters, there's no concrete evidence to suggest that a ship swap ever took place. Detailed records from the shipyard and accounts from the builders show that the Olympic and Titanic were indeed two separate vessels. Moreover, White Star Line never received a large insurance payout after the Titanic disaster. They were only able to recover a portion of the ship's value, which wouldn't have made sense if the goal was to cash in on a full insurance claim. Additionally, many of the supposed differences between the ships, such as porthole arrangements or design features, can be easily explained. The Titanic underwent last-minute modifications before her maiden voyage, which account for some of the discrepancies seen in early photographs. As for J.P. Morgan's cancellation, there are plenty of other plausible reasons for his decision, including health concerns and business matters. In the end, the Titanic Insurance Fraud Theory remains a fascinating piece of maritime folklore. It taps into the allure of hidden agendas, corporate greed, and the idea that even one of history's greatest tragedies could have been part of a larger scheme. But the truth is far less glamorous. The Titanic sank because of a combination of human error, poor planning, and nature's unpredictability, not because of a sinister insurance plot. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more intriguing historical mysteries and conspiracy theories. Keep watching as we explore more untold stories and fascinating facts from around the world.